Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Ask Your Fantasy Football Expert Scott Fishbowl edition. Today is the beginning of the Scott Fishbowl 360, which is an insane set of 30 drafts, and there will be one ultimate champion. So I figured, why not bring on the creator of this insane league, Scott Fish, and see what's up with him. And we're going to take a look at the drafts as they're going. We're going to do it a little bit live, and then later today I'm going to bring on as many people as want to come on into a hangout, which will be nuts. And it looks like we got a bit of an echo.
Coming from my end, you think? Let's see here.
Let's see.
Let me try talking. Does that have an echo to it?
I think I may have actually set it up where I'm actually listening to my own show while it was happening. Talk about awesome radio for everybody who's going to see this later. So yeah, come in about a minute into it and it'll be good. So I was like, I opened so many screens. I was like, why? Oh, because I opened it. Yeah, I was watching and listening because there's a bit of a delay. So anyway, reboot. We do a 3, 2, 1. Anyway, so Scott, how's it going this afternoon? And how do you feel now that this thing started?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. I will feel a lot better after all of the drafts are through round one, because at that point I will know all 360 people have stopped by, made a pick, and they're in the game. Last year we had I think 3 or 4, maybe 5 people just not show up for the drafts, so that gets to be a little stressful.
Because we had 240 last year, is that correct?
Yeah, 240 and 360 this year. 120 the year before, 240. We just keep bumping up because there's just a ridiculous amount of interest. I think we had about 900 people sign up for this year's.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was a limit as to how many people would be interested, but it sounds like in fantasy football there really never is a limit.
No. And the more analysts I get around the industry, the more people want to play with those analysts. So it's not a hard thing to grow. I think I know I already have more people signed up for next year than I did for this year, and it's day one.
So let's get a little history lesson before we get into the Fishbowl, and particularly this year. What about your history as kind of a fantasy analyst, the FF Oasis days, and what's happening at DLF and all that?
Well, I started in about, early to mid 2000s, about 12 years ago now. Then I was at the cafe, Fantasy Football Cafe, for a while. I started my own site, Fantasy Football Oasis, which I was there, started with Rob Leith and Gary Davenport, and we did that for about 5 or 6 years, and now I am a senior writer and senior developer at Dynasty League Football. I don't do as much writing these days. I do a lot of behind-the-scenes web app building and website development type stuff, and a little bit of writing, but that's mostly what I'm up to now.
So is DLF already getting into the app game as well?
I'm sure we will be soon enough. We don't have a phone app as of yet, but I don't think it would be that too far off.
Maybe you could start with like a simple one, just like height of receiver, since there's a big controversy about drafting receivers of a certain height or body mass index, or whoever's had a couple donuts for breakfast this morning. That's who I'm taking in my draft.
Nice. Yeah, we'll just put it. It'll just be an app with a table, and it'll just be organized by height. This is our rankings. Ifeanyi Moma at 6'7". He's your number 1 wide receiver. Oh, that'd be funny.
So does it get? I'd say does it get easier every year? But since you're adding 120 people, I'm guessing the answer to that is no, since you're emailing 359 people every time.
It does. It gets easier because I've learned to make myself really organized, but on the flip side of that, a lot more emails hit spam folders because I guess when you send 360 emails at a time, people's Gmails and Yahoos just like to throw those in spam. They assume it's not something important. and this is very important.
Yeah, people are reacting like today's Christmas almost with the excitement over the fact. And I think part of it is at a dead time for the NFL. There's not much happening unless defensive ends are blowing their hands up. So
Yeah,
it's a
wow.
good time to not have a guy, for the most part, get hurt during a draft at least. And of course, the hardest part about this draft is when it's over, you're doing the Matrix Neo move, dodging injuries and hoping that your team isn't decimated by the time opening day happens. But I think it's a good balance.
Yeah, that's wow. That's something I know all too well. 2 years ago was a big emphasis point on how fair this league is. When I went, I personally went 2-10 with Percy Harvin, Jeremy Maclin, Dennis Pitta, and two others. 5 of my top 8 draft picks were out before the season started in this league. You just can't come back from that.
Plus, there is, I guess we should, so like at a high level, maybe you could explain the kind of the scoring and the rosters for the teams.
Okay, the rosters are 22-man rosters, 22 round draft. You have 11 starters. It's 1 to 2 quarterbacks, 2 to 6 running backs, 3 to 7 wide receivers, 1 to 5 tight ends. You're starting 11 each week. It is a super flex, so that tends to push quarterbacks up the chain. I believe Andrew Luck is currently a top 3 pick in these drafts. The scoring, it's pretty basic, pretty standard. You do get a quarter of a point per carry, which kind of bumps up the running backs. Other than that, most of it is pretty standard.
So is your goal with the scoring to try to make it as even as possible between positions? And I'm guessing, tight end, I guess, could drop a little bit. But for the most part, trying to make it as even as possible, so you really are trying to get the best player available.
Yep, exactly. That is the entire goal, and it's kind of a way to make people happy, is what it is. And next year, I think I'll need to bump it up, as you said, to tight end premium, just to move the tight ends up the chain a little. Making it 2 QB bumps the QBs up. Giving that points per carry bumps the running backs up. So a lot of drafts you see nowadays have a lot of wide receivers going early. I try to make it so that they're as even as possible, so no matter what draft strategy you use or no matter how your draft falls to you, you're probably going to be kind of okay with your team just because all those scorings are so even.
I think I saw you could start up to 6 running backs, so that's a potential crazy lineup setup.
Yeah, that's not too normal, but people love their flex spots, so I threw 4 at them.
And then again, at a kind of a high level, how does it work? Because we're all in 12-team divisions, but we have conferences of 60, so it's 5 divisions per conference. But in terms of the playoffs and who makes the playoffs, and then how does it work out to create that ultimate champion?
Okay. Each division of 12, it's really a 12-man league. Each of the 30 it's like 30 leagues. You have a league playoffs, a divisional playoffs that run concurrently with conference playoffs. They all run weeks 13 through 15. The conference playoffs, half of each conference makes it. So 30 teams per conference, 30 teams of the 60 in a conference make it to the playoffs. Basically, the rule to making the playoffs is if you have 8 wins, you're automatically in the playoffs. After that, it's based on points who makes it. And the way the conference playoffs run, 50% of the teams move up each week. So in the wild card weekend of the playoffs, there's 20 teams playing. 10 teams have a bye. So in that wild card round with 20 teams playing, 10 teams advance. They play the bye week teams, so 20 teams there. 10 teams advance to the conference finals. And from there, only 2 teams from that advance to the actual final. But it's quite a ride. It's quite a ride.
Who was the champion last year?
Ryan McKee, a writer for Pro Football Focus. That is their second winner. Mike Clay of Pro Football Focus won in 2010. So they've done well in this thing.
And this has started, so 2010, the first year this started?
Yep. 2010 was the first year. We did skip a year. The year my wife was pregnant, I just didn't have the time. Couldn't get it together. So this is technically the fifth year. It's been running for 6 years, but this is the fifth actual league.
It's like you need some minions. But what does, since you have a bunch of prizes involved in this league, what does the champion get, and what are some of the other prizes that people can win?
Oh gosh, there's so many of them this year. The fantasy industry is just so incredibly generous this year. We have, well, first off, the champion gets a $299 entry into a Scout Online Fantasy Championship League, you can win thousands of dollars of prizes. You can also win, or the champion also gets a lifetime subscription to Dynasty League Football, and there's 1 year subscriptions to 4for4 for RotoViz, Dynasty Football Warehouse, Blindside Football. I know I'm going to forget some. I know there's 3 year memberships to Football Guys that you can win. There's just a lot of things out there. And one more thing to note: if you don't make the playoffs, the 180 teams that 180 teams that don't make the playoffs get thrown all mashed together in a tournament, and the winner of that tournament gets a lifetime subscription to Football Guys. So even if you don't make the playoffs, you have a shot at a pretty dang good prize.
So there is a chance, and there actually are waivers after the draft, although with 22 players. And one reason why Scott's one of the best is because no team defense and no kicker in this league. So you will find actual players who will contribute for you. I think I got Charles Johnson last year on waivers, but you really have to reach deep, and especially at the quarterback position. Now, what division did you put yourself in?
It's actually very, very random. I completely randomize everybody's name in an Excel sheet, and then I make sure that nobody is in the same division with someone from their same website. It doesn't always work, but I try. I got put in Step Brothers Catalina Wine Mixer division, which is still stuck on pick 101. I mean, one pick has been made. We're still on the second pick right now, which is kind of rough. I was hoping to have my pick done.
Well, when it's over the draft, you get that sad feeling. Like, I started to do some NFL 10s, and the first one I did ended, and the second one I did like in the 13th round. So it's getting to the point where it's kind of the dregs anyway. So it's like the new draft energy is always exciting.
Yeah.
So one thing I thought we could do is really quickly look at the drafts as they're going, see who's in the lead, as in I already put a contest on Twitter, pick the league that would be the furthest along. What pick will they be on by 5 o'clock, which was the original time of this interview, but we decided to do it a little earlier just to mess with people. And it's best to not have a 2-year-old awake during the hangout. I'm guessing it'd be just as good as me having my audio open while I'm talking to myself. I'll probably cut the audio and try to put something like that together. I don't do a lot of editing. I'm just like, I love Hangouts. You just go. It's live radio, man.
Yeah, it's nice. Oh, boy. Have you seen the Talladega Nights Go Fast division? Living up to the name. They are almost done with the second round. No other draft is even in the second round.
So while I get this draft shared, what inspired you to pick your kind of division names and conference names and all that? What made you say, Will Ferrell, that's where it's at?
Oh, okay. Well, did I lose you there?
That was just a little pause.
Oh, I see.
You should be seeing the actual draft. I'm sharing the page. I suppose I should actually expand my screen so you can see it, but...
No, I was just worried I'd lost you for a moment. In 2012, I did Tecmo Super Bowl as a theme, and people really, really enjoyed that. And the following year, when it increased, I didn't have enough Tecmo Super Bowl things to make all the divisions, so I decided I need a new theme. So last year I just did movie and TV characters, which was pretty fun. This year I decided to just do movies, like catch lines and catchphrases from movies, one-liners, whatever. And I asked for suggestions out there, and I got this from this movie, and there turned out to be several Will Ferrell movies that were, lines that were nominated. So I figured, why not just make it all Will Ferrell? Instead of trying to drag, having 30 or having 15 divisions named after Will Ferrell lines and then 15 other ones, why not just make them all after Will Ferrell? People are really enjoying this one, I find. There were a lot of people who had preferences where they landed.
So we're going to start. We're in the Talladega Nights Conference, and this is the Shake and Bake division, just to show everybody where these divisions are at the moment. So as you can see, Antonio Brown, so leading off with a receiver. I think we're doing PPR, right?
Yep.
So you don't get, you get the advantage for the carries, so that gives the bump up to the running backs, and you can start 2 quarterbacks, so it gives a bump up to quarterbacks. So it makes sense that a lot of these divisions, you're going to see Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck going probably first half of the first round in each one of these, and this is the case here. So this is the Shake and Bake division. We're just going to click to the not first or last division, and you can see we're on pick number 6, and it looks like only 1 quarterback taken here, but it's pretty similar who was picked. I just wanted to see if anybody was jumping out in these divisions as a kind of a crazy selection, but it's probably going to take a little time. Like, I think Matt Forte, pick number 4, I think he's in for a bit of a drop this year, maybe in terms of receptions, because he was a target machine last year.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to break your own NFL record 2 seasons in a row. So I can't imagine he'd get 102 again, especially with Trestman gone to Baltimore.
I know, the magical Trestman. We all loved him so much, and he left us too soon. It was like a summer romance. So I'm clicking over to the That Just Happened division. I won't try to use Will Ferrell voices because that doesn't work. So we have 4 picks in, and we have 2 quarterbacks already taken. And then actually the spider monkey that we just passed, I have the 11th pick. I'm in that division. Last year I had the 2nd pick, and I actually was just like, let's just get in the elite quarterback. He win threshold, but my total points weren't that good because I shirked quarterback. And I don't know if this happens to you, Scott, but it seems like in the fantasy industry, you learn what to do and not to do after you do it wrong. Because once I picked Aaron Rodgers and shared on Twitter, everybody's like, "Oh, you're taking quarterback early. You're a dumbass. Why'd you do that?" Oh, okay. It was really my first 2 quarterback experience, so I was, all right. But this is the vision right here. So go fast. They are drafting fast. Look at that. We are at pick 209. And I think I only see 3 quarterbacks picked. There does seem to be a bit of a drop-off when you get Russell Wilson as your 3rd quarterback after that. But I'm still kind of surprised there are only 3 in the first 2 rounds. But this is another thing that happens in fantasy drafts when you're dealing with the quote-unquote sharks, is sometimes the sharks have one train of thought. So if you go counter to that, you might actually get an advantage. So maybe grabbing 2 quarterbacks is the way to go. But you see Ty Miller there, Mr. Double Champion, taking Arian Foster in the 2nd round. So that's a good pick right there.
Yeah, there are some teams I really like in there. I think I think
I really like everybody because in the first round, every pick looks good. I went ahead and clicked over to the Zoolander conference. It's the first time I've seen Odell Beckham's name out there. What do you think, Scott? Think he looks good as the redraft candidate this year?
I think he's going to have similar stats to last year. Only he'll play 4 more games. I still really like him. I would like to own him somewhere, but I don't. I think his regression will come in the form, because I think everyone pretty much agrees he's got to regress from the ridiculous pace he was on. I think his regression is probably going to come in the form of having similar stats in 4 more games. I still really like him. I don't know that I would be jumping on him at 106 in a format like this. I'm more of a running back guy. I almost always take a running back in the first. Just positional scarcity, but can't knock the pick if you love him.
Yeah, this is something I've learned through my MFL 10 experience. The first one I did, I went 0 running back and realized that there were like no running backs left after about round 4. So in the second MFL 10 I did, I actually took 4 running backs in a row to start, kind of just to test and see what happened. And I actually really like that. It's an unusual. I went 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks, and then 2 tight ends. Just going very straight up by position. So this is the Blue Steel division. Feel free to give your Blue Steel impersonation if you want. In the Magnum division, that's right. This is the one you're waiting on. Pick number 3. Gosh.
Oh.
Come on, Jeff Miller. Get that mustache going. Make a pick.
Oh, I wouldn't have expected him to hold it up.
Cancel division. We're about halfway through the first round. I think most of these drafts are halfway through the first round. So we got to division. Oh, look at this one. We're up to almost the end of the first round. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be too unhappy if someone like Marshawn Lynch fell to pick 11. We'll see how that one goes.
Especially in the points per carry. That'd be a nice pick there.
Mari Ballstein division. Honestly, I've seen Zoolander. Don't know the reference. See, I made another thing I'm doing, and you should know this by now, but I've started to send interviews out to people who are in these, and eventually I am going to get these to everybody. There are 360 people, by the way, to answer just some simple interview questions and get that out to my site and just kind of share thoughts and strategies and random nonsense, which is what I like to do with my interviews. So I sent out the second conference. Looks like we got Scott on the move, huh? Hearing some noise?
No, I just saw a light on behind me and realized it did not need to be on in the daytime.
Let's see. So Step Brothers, we're up to pick number 6, and we have 3 running backs taken. Seems we get Step Brothers. This is the Boats and Hose division. Nice. Yeah, I used the term strategery in one of the questions I asked, and one of the people thought I'd spelled the word incorrectly. And I'm like, okay, so you don't know your Will Ferrell references as well as you think you do.
I read that.
I sent the link over as from the Saturday Night Live W impersonation. Is this the one you're in, Catalina Wine Mixer, the one that's on pick number 2? You are the winner for the Tortoise division so far, the slowest division out of the 30.
I'm about to tweet out a picture of my starting lineup so far and have it be an empty bench like Carl Safchik did last year.
Yeah, Prestige Worldwide. I see Gronk going. Gronk in the first. Once you do that, you feel like you're set at tight end, so that's not a bad feeling. The famous Nuts on Drum Set division, you had to put Eric Dickens in that one. And we're almost on pick 12. You can make a joke of just about every division, because every division I look at, I'm like, oh yeah, I know like half to 2/3 of the people at least. And then over at Shark Week, look at that, 5 picks in, no quarterbacks, everybody's being strong. I don't know if I've done.
I will like to see how fast they go.
Yeah.
Last year they went a little faster than it feels like they are this year. Just I think everybody hated on running backs last year, so that pushed the quarterbacks up even more. This year everybody's loving on running backs, so it's pushing those quarterbacks down. The interesting thing is we only changed the scoring a very small amount. We went from 0.2 to 0.25 points per carry at running back. And last year, I think in the regular season of the top 10 teams, like 5 or 6 of them drafted 2 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds. It was a common theme among the top regular season teams. So it'll be interesting to see if that does not play out this year.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between 0.2 and 0.25 is basically you get an extra point if your guy has 20 carries.
Right.
So it does help a little, but those things always affect people's view. So we're in to an Anchorman. I am so out of it. I have not seen Anchorman. I saw Step Brothers like once, and I don't remember a lot of it. So there you go. Very Will Ferrell movie. Kind of, you get like 3 or 4 lines you really like, and then you just kind of like lose track of what's happening besides. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, I get in trouble with people because like a movie like Napoleon Dynamite, I'm like, I don't understand it. Everybody thinks it's great. So, humor, it's very, very subjective. I'm sure someone will think this is funny, but not on purpose. So we're 4 picks in the Dorothy Mantooth division. Let's see. We're just going to see if we're moving ahead here. So I Love Lamb, just halfway through. Sex Panther, Justin Lanero. And that one, of course, just Julio Jones, number 1. That's an unusual pick. That's not something I've seen before. But when you have a pick on the turn, you have to kind of reach with that.
Yeah, you have to go for the guys you really want.
Oh, there's not going to be anybody there. 24 picks from when I pick. So, yeah. I mean, Eddie Lacy. I mean, MFL 10 I did. DeMarco Murray went number 1. And I think the team was named appropriately Dead Money. Don't think they're going to do very well. But we'll see. Maybe Murray's got another crazy year in him. Glass Case division. Yeah, about where everybody is. We're, 1 pick in. Hey, they're tied with you. The Escalated Quickly is not escalating quickly. And they're on pick number 2, Antonio Brown. I did a couple of mocks, like those DLF mocks, and Antonio Brown dropped to like pick number 7, and I was really, happy about that. A guy who seems to get 700 targets a year, you kind of like to have that guy on your fantasy team.
Yeah.
So we're in old school. We're going streaking. Think of that. Another 6 picks in, and Andrew Luck has been taken.
Aaron Rodgers.
I kind of think Aaron Rodgers is going to outscore him. Like, there's something about that splash season a guy has. Like Peyton Manning had the 49 touchdown season. The next season he had like 30. Tom Brady had that record-breaking season. Next season tears his ACL. I think after Peyton Manning broke the touchdown record again, the next year he really sucked in the playoffs too. Yeah, so to grab that guy off that career, Stafford. People are still drafting Stafford as if he's had multiple 40 touchdown years and he's had 1. So Andrew Luck, we'll see. I mean, you're kind of like waiting. His second year, he had 23 touchdowns, same as his rookie year, and then last year it just blew up. But he is facing the AFC South, so yeah, and the NFC South this year, so that looks pretty good.
Nice.
You're my boy. Blue, the earmuffs, 4 whole picks in there. Frank the Tank. I swear that's somebody's handle on Twitter.
It is. He's in this, too, and he's not in that division.
And Mitchapalooza division, which is actually almost through the first round. And I like Jason Tran just put X for his comment, because that's the thing he does when he scores, I think. Look at that. Keep it simple.
Oh, it does, right? Yeah.
And the last one, Farrell, the Saturday Night Live, probably his best work. More cowbell. Yeah, let's see, about eight in. Suck it, Trebek. Got some pre-drafts going on. Waiting for J.J. Zacharyson. He freaking writes about fantasy football for a living. The dude should be on it. Step it up, man. Harry Carey division. Let's see, Odell Beckham again. Taking pick 8. I feel like I should be talking about NPR. And if you donate $30, you get a free tote bag. And the last division here, the Dodge Stratus division, and Adrian Peterson, number 1. Yeah. You're a Minnesota guy, right? Isn't that where you're located?
He would have been my number 1 as well, honestly.
So what are your thoughts on him, and do you think there's anything to the age and the year off, or you just think, oh, he's been really good in the past, and he came off an ACL tear a couple years ago and was awesome, so don't worry about it?
I am in the Norv Turner is going to throw him a lot of passes, and he is every time he's played angry, he's just destroyed. So I have a feeling this year is going to be a very big year for Adrian Peterson. I don't know how much they're going to take him off the field to get McKinnon some reps, but like I said, Adrian Peterson's my 101 this year at the current moment. I think there's big things in store for him. I can't fault people for other picks, but he's just right up there for me, especially in this format where I can be pretty certain Peterson's going to get about 20 carries a game. That's huge. That's an extra 5 points in this league.
Yeah, it's hard to say no. I drafted him last year, and it was a keeper league, but it was like our every 4-year startup draft. I got him in the second round. I was like, Adrian Peterson the second. You got to be kidding me. And then, of course, he was out most of the year. And I actually dropped him, but then picked him back up, and that's looked like a pretty good move because I think he's definitely going to be my keeper at running back. I don't think I'm going to get some kind of crazy trade offer for him, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. So how does it work over at the Dynasty League football? Like, do you become senior, based on your age, or they just like to give you a title? That's like your signing bonus.
Yeah, I don't know what their qualifications for senior writer is, honestly. I think if you do good work long enough, and I don't even think it has to be at DLF, just if you've been a good writer for long enough, and because I wasn't at DLF like for long at all, I basically walked into the senior position, at least not too far off. I think if you've been in the industry a while and you do a lot of good work and you portray yourself a certain way, like you lead a good example, I think that's when they'll push you to the senior role. I like it. I try to set a good example. So, rough. So I'm just looking at, someone made a comment on Twitter saying that I shouldn't, or joking that I shouldn't be able to be in SFB 360 because, and then hashtag fixed. I just looked up my 2013 season, 1-11. Gonna have to reply with that.
Yeah, that's one way to throw him off the scent anyway. That's my theory.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't fix that one, but this one.
Well, I think my team was the reason why you changed the wins threshold, because I think last year it was 7 instead of 8, and I reached it. And I just kept having those. You have the opposite of the bad luck. Like I'd score the 9th most points, and I'd play the team at the 10th most, and I just kept having wins like that. And so once I got to the playoffs, I was exposed. I think about 4 seconds into the playoffs, I was eliminated. That's how quick it was for me. I don't even remember because it was kind of confusing by the time the playoffs came on. I might have to do like another round of interviews. Like, okay, here's how the playoffs really work, because we'll forget. We're just excited because the sheer number of people, lots of people we've chatted with on Twitter, and it's like bringing people down. And maybe we'll have a little site rivalry, although that doesn't really seem to happen too much in fantasy. It's still a relatively small and new industry that people aren't sniping each other that much. Sure, it happens.
You would think there'd be some kind of rivalries, but you're right, there isn't. I almost joke that it's kind of like a kumbaya, sit around the campfire type of league, that people are just very positive and supportive of each other's picks for some reason, even though if it was a league they weren't in, they might, have more of an opinion on it.
Yeah, so you have like a crazy schedule. I remember trying to get you on a going for 2, and you're like, well, I actually go to bed at 6 o'clock. So what's life like in the Fish household?
My schedule is, it's interesting. I work Monday through Friday mornings, so I basically sleep from 5:45 p.m. to 10:15 p.m., and then I work overnights. I take a nap, pick up my kid, and I'm with my son for a couple hours. Then my wife gets home, we eat dinner, and I go to bed. That's every day from Monday evening through Friday morning. I basically have no time for anything. People request me to be on podcasts a lot that I feel awful. If people recorded middle of the day or on weekends more, I could probably make more, but yeah, it's just between Monday at 5:45 and Friday at about 10 a.m., I'm basically non-existent.
So my current status is unemployed. That works out perfectly, huh? Actually, I should probably get my email expertise to help you out with these emails you're sending out, since send them out through a third-party system instead of through like Gmail. You might get better luck. I don't know. It's still relatively small, but even me sending the 12 at a time divisional interview in your emails, it's time consuming. But
I honestly should get some help. This thing it's a lot of work.
I guarantee you, as many people who have said they're willing to help in the prize side, I'm sure people will help on the other side. Although how dependable they might be during the entire year could be an issue. I did notice that one league where the first person timed out after 10 minutes, but I'm guessing stuff like that happens at the onset.
Yeah,
leagues.
the NFL leagues, when you make them this big, they even warn me against it. They're like, there can be glitches. And it doesn't happen too often. They're such a good host, such a good site, but there are occasionally glitches when you make a league this big. So I'm all right fixing it. I'm around today.
Well, this isn't. I don't know if this is unusual, but at least for the leagues I've done. So with this league, if you time out, the next person's up. You don't get automatically the top ADP person. It's kind of like the NFL. So just a note for everybody: if you do time out, that means the next person up is picking ahead of you, and you basically pick whenever you can get to your computer. And I think it's a pretty. What is it? Is it 8 hours or is it even more?
It's 8 hours. It is shut off from midnight to 8 a.m. Eastern, but I put that rule in this year. I just love it. I think that it's going to force people to really make their picks. I think people are going to be afraid of 5 people piling on picks before they can get to it. So I think it's a real it's a rule that's going to force people to not miss their picks and make sure they're checking in.
You got to be really good friends with all the people at MFL because you're setting up this funky custom kind of league.
I've been friends with them for a long time. I think I first talked to Mike probably about 6 years ago. I probably talked to Jeff the most. Jeff is the one who runs the My Fantasy League Twitter account. He's the one that does the does the emailing and stuff for the MFL 10s and the texts. I think those are all automated now, and Tony Holm runs behind. Of course, Kevin Austin died recently. I did not know him, but yeah, I'd say I know Jeff the most. I haven't talked to Mike in a long time. I haven't talked to Tony since last summer. So, but yeah, I'd say pretty decent friends with him. Enough to ask them to set up or to give me these leagues or host these leagues for me.
Yeah, I would guess it'd be a major pain to get 360 people to send you in like $10 or whatever it is for hosting fees.
Oh gosh, that would be insane if I charged a fee for this. I'm very happy it's free. Especially, I don't know that I could charge a fee. There's a lot of restrictions here in Minnesota, and my wife works for the Department of Revenue, so I have to make sure everything I do is on the up and up.
Yeah, ultimately, I think bragging rights works, and I'm doing some MFL 10s, but that's really straightforward. It's you pay $10, and if you win, you get $100 coming second, get a free league, and that is that. Well, it might be sad. I was thinking that until the football season starts, I wanted to be in a draft constantly, but I mean, this one's probably going to take a little while because it's 22 rounds, and you get that timeout during the night. I haven't had that issue with MFL 10 where your pick comes up right when you go to sleep and then you miss it. That's happened to me a few times with the drafts I've done, but not that yet. So is it tough for you? Do you keep the schedule in the fall during football season too, your work schedule?
Yep, keep it all year long. In the fall, I do have a Sunday morning start-sit show I do on Blog Talk and on, I don't know, I think it's on like Fantasy Sports Network and some other stuff. I'm not exactly positive. It's run by the Asylum Boys, Rick Flieger and Rick Briggs.
Right, the Asylum Network.
Yeah.
Those guys, like when I first got to know them, I sent the interview questions. I didn't realize there were 2 of them, and they both were named Rick.
Yeah.
So it was a little confusing, like Rick and Rick 2, and we ended up doing 2 separate sets of questions with the 2 different, that's odd. 2 different Ricks, both Pittsburgh fans, and
it's very interesting being on the show with them both at the same time as a guest because they're both named Rick, and you have to make sure to say Flieger or Briggs just so with the one that you can let them know which one you're talking to. It is something that's interesting to get used to. You said you wanted to be in a draft straight through from now until the season started. That was a goal of yours?
Just being in something constantly. I was doing some of those mock drafts like the ones Ryan does for DLF, and was it Fat Cat 52 does they're kind of dynasty startup mocks. I've been afraid. I haven't actually done an actual dynasty startup since like 2006, so to dive into a real one, but to do, and it's good to get a feel, although doing dynasty as opposed to doing redraft, it's a totally different thing. And especially these 2 quarterback leagues will mess with people's heads. And I think Ty Miller already posted that all the DLF people are going to draft rookies too early because that's just what they do. But we'll see how it all goes. I don't think it's going to be a dramatic difference, but there's something about having that, although it does destroy your email. You constantly get messages about these leagues, and sometimes you get your leagues crossed. Like I was in one league, and we were like in the 17th round, and then I got an email for the league in the 6th round, and then I was seeing like, hey, how come Blake Bortles is the best quarterback left in like the 6th round? I was like, oh, I'm looking at the wrong league. Okay, so you can get a little mixed up when that's going on. So maybe 2 at the time at most. And we'll see. Maybe after this one, I'll want to take a rest. But in your own division, go ahead.
If after this one you don't feel like taking a rest, I just sent you an email to the league I'm running after this, which I find very interesting. If you know me, you know I like unique leagues. It's best ball, so.
Yeah, I've noticed this year. Well, there are 2 things. One is, if you get into the fantasy football industry, and the way I've got into it, mostly through Twitter and vague blog posts, is you get invited to a lot of leagues and you want to join them all, and then you realize there's no way you can keep up. But this year, I've noticed the proliferation, big word, that's why I'm not drinking yet, of leagues that are best ball, because everybody is going to be doing a lot of DFS this fall. So I think leagues where you have to actually submit a lineup every week aren't going to be as popular, and I'm wondering if the contrarian move is to go after the big money ones, those leagues, because more people are I'm just going to play DFS. I don't know. It's always interesting to see, like, I feel like to get in there, you really have to know your stuff. I'm a little bit nervous, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think I can tell you for SFB at least, you set lineups in SFB. There are waivers in SFB. I try to make it as minimal effort as possible, which people appreciate. There's no trades. You just deal with the 4 skill positions. But a lot of guys in the industry didn't want to play because, I shouldn't say a lot, a few. A few people in the industry didn't want to play simply because it was roster management. I do get that. So most of the leagues I've started this summer, like the one I just emailed you, is best ball. But I put a unique twist on them to make them at least somewhat interesting. This one, however, I want it to be, we invite a bunch of fans, right? This year it's 270 analysts and 90 fans. I want to make sure this stays a real league so that those fans get to feel like they're actually interacting with these writers that they enjoy reading. So I don't know that I'll ever change that, but I might have to if redraft starts going away. But you're right. It seems like people want to play best ball, DFS, and maybe some dynasty. And redraft feels like it's going away to a degree. But I think a lot of home leagues are still doing a lot of redraft.
Yeah, I mean, I have my local keeper league, and I actually won the championship for the first time in like 12 years. I was like the Patriots, always in the playoffs, couldn't quite pull it off. So we do that, and we have there was like one set of rule changes over the past decade. Like we added a flex and we added PPR. Other than that, it's very strict, so it's hard to explain to people. It's like you can only have 3 quarterbacks, you can only have 4 running backs and 4 wide receivers, which makes waivers really deep. And it makes position choosing tough because you have to roster 2 kickers, you have to roster 2 defenses, which makes the last few rounds really, really boring. But that's the way the league is, and I think each league has to have its own flavor. I think I saw the Street Free Agent was doing a league where whoever wins, everybody else in the league has to send them a bottle of whiskey. I'm like, okay, that's a different kind of league. Might be fun to do something like that with beer.
So yeah, he's got a beer league too. He just got finished drafting, and that whiskey league is only $7. Yeah, I suppose $7 plus a bottle of whiskey if you don't win. But that is really cool. I like when leagues find interesting little things to do with them. It makes it more fun.
So what were you drinking today? I think you showed it earlier, but I think I was
Oh,
yabbering.
Surly Furious.
Wow, look at that.
Ever heard of it? Or I'm sure you've heard of it, probably. It's
I
delicious.
haven't. I
It's a
did it
Minnesota beer.
there. Oh, which there's one. There's one podcast where they have a guy who's like a beer guy, and I think he's in Minnesota, or the host is in Minnesota. I don't remember which one that was. But they actually had like a beer segment, and they brought on like brewers and all that kind of stuff, and that was fun. But I did a bottle exchange, which is really everybody else brought awesome beer, and mine didn't make the cut, and it was kind of fun to try all those beers that everybody had talked about.
I bet.
Even though the focus is on IPA, which I can appreciate it, but it's not my preference. But that's
Yeah, I like Moo Juice, which is a Wisconsin beer. But mostly I drink Stella, and beer lovers hate this, but Golden Light, Michelob Golden Light is something I love.
man.
Yeah, it's not most people's flavor. It's probably water to a lot of people, but I really like it. I grew up with it, so.
Well, I saw a beer article lately, and it was about the low kind of session beers, the kind of beers that like factory workers drank at lunchtime way back in the day that were really low alcohol. And I'm like, that's the kind of stuff I need to bring to my live draft so it can look like I'm drinking a lot, but it's not a lot of alcohol. Like a beer that's like 3% alcohol, and you're like, man, you're just knocking them back. And you're like, yeah, and, you can maybe play off that a little bit, but what can you say? Fellow beer lovers, it's hard to hate except for the natural light people. They need help. They need intervention. Or they need more money. I don't know. Could be a money thing, but I don't know. You save your money for certain things. So I don't want to make this go too long since this is during the day and all, but I just thought it'd be cool to get a primer, get to talk to the guy behind this whole thing. So Scott, anything else you have to offer the listening, watching audience, especially the 360 participants?
Gosh, I don't know. Just happy drafting. I hope they have fun. That's like the main thing I want whenever I commission a league, is just for people to have fun, and it really seems like they are. I hope I can. I hope they all get through round one tonight. That's all I really, really want to make sure that happens, so that I don't have to lose sleep over fixing a guy who didn't show up or whatever. But yeah, and I want to thank everyone for playing. I want to thank everyone for all the excitement they've shown on Twitter so far. That's just, it makes me smile seeing all of that. It's probably the best joy of a commissioner is people having fun doing their league, right? So thank you for having me on as well. It's I'm glad you could make this middle of the day time, which is perfect for me.
Got to be able to adjust people's schedules, especially when you can. So everybody can find you, ScottFish24 on Twitter, and I think you have links to the league if people want to find it. I mean, if you go to my site, Zach Law Online, and there's a Scott Fish Bowl page that I created, and I'm going to have all the divisions represented. I just decided initially, I'm like, I'm going to reach out to all 360 in a week, and that was crazy, especially on a holiday week last week. So I'm like, I'm going to try to do a division a week. We have the rest of the summer. And hopefully, I'll get all 360 people to respond by the end of the summer. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I think I had 24 or so out of the 60, and a bunch of people I emailed this morning have responded. So that's good. So let's keep it going. So tonight at 8 o'clock my time, Eastern time, I'm going to do kind of a whirlwind tour around the divisions, how the divisions are going, and anybody is basically open to come on and comment and talk smack or whatever they want to do. We're going to give that a shot and see how that goes. These open kind of hangouts, you never know what you're going to get. Should be entertaining. I'll actually have beer at that time. A little early for me, but I don't live on a crazy schedule like this guy. And he knows. You know what's going on. You're drinking.
A lot of that just went metallic-y for me. Metallic. I couldn't hear most of what you just said, but it was a good chat talking with you.
Yeah, it was good to talk to you. And so we will get this continued around 8 o'clock. I just got to remember this is a new mic, so keep it close to the mouth. Probably. Anyway. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, Scott, for being on the show. And we will have at least the one later today. I don't know, maybe we'll do a hangout as the year goes on, maybe around playoffs time, just to let people know how it's going, who's getting all these cool prizes, and just the camaraderie of the industry and how fun this kind of thing can be. So thanks, Scott, for being on board. And find us on Twitter, Zach_Law. So talk to you all later.